A guten Erev Shabbos on this first Shabbos of the month of Elul, as we get ready to usher in the new year, 5785, Rosh Hashanah being less than 4 weeks away. In this week's Torah portion, when the Torah speaks about going to war, the Torah warns us against cutting down a fruit tree. And then the Torah says the famous verse, Ki ha'adam eitz hasadeh, because man is compared to the tree of the field. And the question, of course, the rabbis discuss it at length at what the Torah means, but the question is, why, out of all comparisons, do we get compared to the tree of a field? There must be better comparisons of what a human being is compared to. And there's a beautiful midrash that quotes on David in King Psalms. David in King Psalms says, Yamav ketzel oiver, that the life of a human being is like a fleeting shadow. And in Midrash, Rav Huna, the great sage, says there's 3 types of shadows. There's a shadow of a bird. A bird leaves a shadow in a fleeting moment. It rushes through, and as it flies through, you get a shadow. Then there's the shadow of a wall, which is a more permanent shadow. And then there's the shadow of a tree. It says Rav Huna that that's what King David is saying, Yamav ketzel oiver, that for most people, the shadow is like the shadow of a fleeting bird, which is so momentarily. And the question is, what's Rav Huna saying? People live 70, 80 years today. Many people are living 90, 100, or 100 plus. That's not a fleeting bird. And maybe the commentaries tell us the message Rav Huna is giving us the same message that the Torah is trying to tell us, comparing us to the tree of the field. You see, there's the lives we live. They could be 70 years, 80 years, or 100 years. But the question is, what shadow do we leave after we finish living? What's the imprint? What's the impact we have when our life is finished? Some people, they might build a business, a beautiful home, a thriving business, but their impact, their shadow they leave after they finish living is a fleeting moment, because their impact was building an empire for themselves, but not something for society, not something for the world, not something for Judaism. Then there's people that they're like the shadow of a wall. You see, the shadow of a wall, you come near a wall, you get shadow in the morning, and you get shadow in the evening. But during the day, when the sun is at its greatest, there's no shadow. Some people, when they're young, and then when they get older, and they realize their life is about to pass, their shadow is more permanent. But during their permanent and most important years, their thriving middle years, there is no shadow. But then there's the shadow of a tree. The shadow of a tree is a shadow that's always there. It could be burning sun, 100 degrees in the middle of the day. And if you go under a tree, you're going to get a shadow. There's going to be protection from the sun. Some people recognize that life, although life is not permanent, if we make the effort and the impact we want to have, then the shadow we leave for generations to come won't be a fleeting, like the shadow of a bird or like the wall, but it'll be like the shadow of a tree that could be hundreds of years, in some cases 1,000 years, that a tree could stand tall and give shade and benefit to those around us. And what the Torah is telling us, Ki ha'adam eitz hasadeh, a person has to be compared to the tree of the field. We have to think about our shadow that we leave. We have to think about the life we live, not in the terms of the 60, 70, 80, or 100 years we live, but in terms of what impact are we going to leave after we finish living. There's the famous story that the Talmud tells us about the great Choni HaMagel, who once saw a man planting a carob tree. And he asked him, how long is it going to take for this carob tree to grow? And he said 70 years. He says, 70 years? It doesn't look like you have 70 years left to live. And the man turned to Choni and he says, when I was born, there were carob trees here that were planted by those who came before me for me to enjoy. And now it's my responsibility to plant a carob tree for the next generation. You know, I've been thinking all week about the words of Hirsch Poland's mom. The eulogy she gave. I think about the 23 short years that he lived. But yet I think about the impact that he had. The sanctification of God's name that his mother and father made. His mother getting up there and thanking Hashem Almighty for the 23 years she had Hirsch, hoping she had more, but grateful for what she had. And I think about the impact in the hearts and the souls and the minds of so many that he will continue to have, just like the tree that gives shade for so long. These are the people that have an impact beyond their years. I think about the Kamonson brothers, who we all heard about and spoke about so many times. The father of 5 kids who lived in Otniel near Hebron, and on the day of October 7th, he left everything to go fight and help his brothers in the south, and he was gunned down. My friend told me he went for a shiva this week to meet the family. He was in Israel, and they told him that although he passed away, they're building this gorgeous, magnificent shul, 5,000 square feet, in a settlement overlooking Otniel, where he lived, that will be a permanent place for people, that will keep the memory and the impact that he had alive. Yes, he passed away, but his shadow, the people that he saved, the impact that he had, and the people that he touched will live on for so many years to go. And that's the message the Torah tells us. Ki ha'adam eitz hasadeh. Be a person that leaves a shadow, just like the tree, that will give shade and impact for people for generations to come. Shabbat Shalom. Have a